What's up, everybody? I'm probably going to butcher this video. Excuse me. I had a script, kind of about what I wanted to say about tonight and the message I wanted to get across, so I'll just do the best that I can. So I'll take a little deep breath first. Getting used to being on camera again, so it's kind of weird talking into the camera and seeing yourself, so gives me a little bit of the jitters. But moving on, we're gonna address that. Take a deep breath. Not the proper way to do it, but let's see. I just want to get to what happened tonight and what I wanted to cover in the video. Now, this channel is geared towards mental health and anything mental health related. It's for men. It's for women. I want to encourage the men to step up and even if it's in secret, watch some of these videos. There's still a stigma out there, and I think it's really dumb. Maybe because I'm just used to sharing my emotions, how I feel, not like in a crying way, but how I feel in my heart. And I see that like people even in my generation. I'm a millennial. They don't. Not a lot of people do that, and that's okay to a point. But you need to talk about your emotions, or you'll bottle it up and it'll become something else. It'll churn and it'll overflow and it'll come out as something most likely negative. There's a lot of acceptance of women sharing their emotions and how they feel, but people are still grabbing onto you're a man, you should put that down, swallow it. But when you do that, you keep doing that, the jar is going to get fuller and fuller, and that's when you have it carries into things like it gets siphoned into an unhealthy relationship or pent up anger. It's good to talk about your feelings. I get this a lot. A lot of, not saying everyone, but a lot of women, prospective partners and partners in the past, were like, you're too soft or whatever. And that's a stigma thing too. Like, okay, women want men to open up. Generally, my experience, they want them to open up, but at the same time, if you open up too much, then it's not attractive. You're not a man. But I don't hold that to my truth. I like to be real. It's not that when I express myself, it's expressing my core and it's expressing my I don't know what the word to say, values. I don't know. It's ingrained in my identity. It's just how you grow as a person in a relationship is by expressing yourselves, whether you disagree or not. But I just touched on the stigma a little bit. And some men, they can swallow it, and if you can carry on like that and you're happy, then by all means, swallow your bad days. Sometimes you should, for some examples, you should swallow and be able to take some to shield it from the other people. But if it stays and it festers and it progresses and it starts coming up in your everyday life, towards people and other outlets, that's when you need to speak. That's what I'm mainly talking about. It's important to shield people from other things, children, You know, you have a bad day at work, you don't want to go off on a spouse, um, but also you want to talk about that. You want to be real. Being real doesn't mean talking about your emotions and anger. Um, it's just being self-aware and doing that. I'm not in a relationship right now, but I'm 100% confident it would only grow a relationship into a stronger one. This isn't even the point of the video. I digressed. I wanted to touch on what I'm going through tonight, um, which is funny because I feel like what I just talked about was more important. Sharing your feelings, whether a male stigma going around or, you know, it's female. It's that damn stigma. It's a generational one. It goes back before millennials. It's more um, ingrained in Gen X and you know, the generations before. But there's more stressors out in the world now, and then you have these men still. They're being taught to hold in most of it, which is fine. You hold in some of it. You know, if you can do that in a healthy way. If you can express it by yourself in a healthy way as a man, and expend that energy in a healthy way um, that's away from people, that's not going to harm anyone. Do that. But there's so much stressors now today um, that men are bottling up, and it's changing their personality. It's changing their outlook on life. The suicide rate for men is high. They say it's because we're more readily, you know, firearms. We're more likely to own firearms, but I think it's because of how we've been taught by older generations that this is the normal male, conditioned to hold down everything. And some people can't hold down everything, and that's when tragedy occurs. You gotta be able to talk, you know, talk about the hard things, and that's not an easy thing to do. Um, Not blaming the generations before, um, that worked for them, and it became ingrained in them, so they had resilience. Um, but it also came out in other ways. There's always been domestic abuse. I don't know the stats, but I know going back in different generations, older generations, um, there was probably a bit of domestic abuse. Um, like these things can be channeled into negative ways, and I just want to, while I'm finding awareness for myself, I want to encourage others to find awareness. I want them to, when they're in the heat of the moment, when you're mad or when you're sad, I want I want you to explore. I want you to try and slow down that emotion and explore the roots of it. So that way you can identify the root and you can become a little more self-aware. And by becoming a little more self-aware, you can step back, kind of like taking a step back from your brain and say, okay, this is why I'm feeling this raw emotion. If I can reframe it into a different perspective, you know, this made me sad, I can kind of step outside of that emotion and I can consciously cope with it a little bit better. This is what I try to do, and I try to learn about myself and my feelings on a continuous basis. I think that makes a strong person to be able to identify your raw negative emotions and being able to not turn them off but step back from them. Not saying that I'm perfect. I have my slip ups. I slip up sometimes. It's human, but this is what I'm doing. This is what I'm about, and I feel like doing this will make you a wiser person. It'll help you be a pillar to if someone needs to lean on you. There's power in emotion, and there's power in self-awareness. And when I come to these conclusions of why I'm feeling this way, why I'm being mean to a family member, I can step back and be like, it's not because of them, it's because of you. It's because you're feeling some raw emotions from a specific situation, and you're channeling the negativity onto them or the sadness onto them. And by doing a little studying, you can step back and you can make amends. You can make amends with that person. So for the future, when you feel those same similar emotions, you can say, hey, I've done this before. And you can step back from the emotion, slow down, and try and reach the root and look at it from a different angle, and it makes it easier to cope with. Now, this was not the video at all that I wanted to post, but this just came off the top of my head. I'm a continual learner of myself and my mind because, I have panic disorder, I have anxiety disorder, and driving anxiety. So when I'm feeling panic, I'm in the moment. It's hard to step back. But if you become a student of yourself, I've learned to, like, when I feel the adrenaline, I've learned to step back a little bit. Maybe like, this is why I'm feeling this. I'm out past my comfort zone. The adrenaline's going wild. Even thinking about it kind of brings up the feeling. And this is just a symptom of the driving anxiety. And it's going to be okay. Now, I don't mean to keep going on. Now, sometimes it's a little overbearing and it doesn't always go like that. But it's good to get in that habit. And like, for example, if I'm anxious about going out to the store, my anxiety is pretty bad. I'm not using it as a crutch, just as awareness for men, whoever who has it. If I gotta go to Walmart, I hate going to Walmart. I used to work at Walmart. And I'm like, oh, I gotta drive. Okay. I tell myself, I'm like, this is a symptom of anxiety. You're anxious more than the normal person. You've been there before. You can do it again. And say, here's one of my trigger points. If I'm worked up about driving, it usually starts when I begin. So when I pull out of the driveway, that's when the initial feeling starts. And I'm feeling this heaviness. I can keep it at bay. There's like a high point and a low point. It's usually it kind of hovers like, in the middle, up in the middle, up and down a little bit. And that's fine. I've grown to be able to deal with that through breathing, at least in my comfort zone. But when I stop by a red light and I feel like there's no place to go and I have to wait, and that odometer in my head is going up and down, up and down. What are you waiting for? Impractical thoughts. And you have to sit there, you have to listen to it. That's the only way through it. But you can listen at it. You can listen to it through a different lens, or a different hearing aid, I guess would be more appropriate. Say, to yourself, this is going to be all right. This is just a peak. This is a peak moment. This is a triggering event. And you know that. You know that in your heart. And each time I'm at a red light, I do this. And I stare at the red light and I see the traffic coming, from the appropriate lane, coming forward. And it's going, that meter I'm talking about is going up and down, up and down. And I used to tell myself, continue to tell myself. And whenever you're at a trigger point, it feels like this is going on longer than it's supposed to. But that's really just a disconnect. Well, it's a connect between parts of your brain that regulate the flight or flight. It kind of distorts time in a way. I won't get into it because I don't want to be completely wrong on the specifics. But anywho, I kind of digressed. I'm going to make a video on what I actually wanted to talk about tonight. But I guess this video is just becoming a student of yourself. If you're struggling and you're a passionate person and you have like a high capability of emotional capacity, maybe you suffer from a disorder, maybe you don't, maybe depression or anything could be borderline. I encourage you, after any events that you have an emotional meltdown, that you step back and try and study that and come back to that. I promise it'll give you some clarity. My phone just hit its data limit, so I gotta get off here. Alright, peace.